It was snowing in Aspen that morning. The air was thin-biting. I stood outside the villa with a small suitcase in one hand and a photograph in the other. My wife Rachel smiled back at me from that picture. We built this house together. 35 years, every tile, every beam, every inch was earned. She died 4 winters ago. Since then, this place has been my sanctuary, until today. The front door creaked open. My daughter Emily stepped out in fur-lined slippers. She didn't hug me, didn't smile. She just said calmly, clearly, "This house isn't yours anymore, Dad. It's ours now. You don't need this much space." I thought I misheard. I blinked. Inside, her husband Dylan was pouring wine. Behind him, his parents were hanging pictures. On walls Rachel designed. Then Emily looked me in the eyes and added, "You can't stay. We'll call you when we're done settling in." She closed the door. On me. On 35 years. On my wife's memory. I didn't shout, didn't fight, didn't cry. I stood there, one hand holding Rachel's photo, the other reaching slowly for my car keys. And I whispered to myself, let them have the weekend. Just one weekend. Because that's all they'd need. To regret ever thinking I was weak. I wasn't born with much. My hands built everything I have. I started working at 16 construction site in Bakersfield, California. Framing houses in the summer heat, pouring concrete through cold November mornings. Back then, all I wanted was something I could call mine. A roof, a place that felt safe. Then I met Rachel. She was fire-wrapped in kindness. She taught 3rd grade, and she believed in things I couldn't afford to dream about. She told me, "Richard, love doesn't wait until you have it all. It starts when you give what little you have." We built a life, slow, brick by brick, no loans, no help, just 2 people, trading time for a future. When Emily was born, I cried, didn't even try to hide it. She wrapped her tiny hand around my finger, and that was it. Everything I did after that was for her. I worked weekends, holidays, skipped vacations, missed birthdays, poured every raise, every bonus, into her education, her first car, her wedding. Not because I had to, because I wanted her to have more than I ever did. They called me stubborn, said I gave too much. Maybe they were right. But I had one rule: family comes first, always. Funny how the people you'd sacrifice everything for are the same ones who turn around and tell you it was never yours to begin with. Rachel always dreamed of a house in the mountains. Not just any house, a place with big windows, sunlight pouring in, surrounded by snow and silence. We drove through Aspen once, years before we could ever afford land there. She held my hand the whole ride and whispered someday. I laughed, told her it was out of reach. She just smiled. Said that's the best kind of dream. It took us 19 years. 19 years of saving. Of skipped dinners out of second-hand clothes, of saying no to everything. So we could say yes to that. When we finally laid the foundation, Rachel cried, so did I. That house became more than walls and wood. It was a promise. A place where we grew older, shared books, made soup on cold nights, sat by the fireplace holding hands without saying a word. It was the last place Rachel ever smiled. The last place she watched the snow fall, before the cancer took her voice. After she passed, I couldn't step inside without feeling her everywhere. In the smell of her tea, the creak of the second stair, the wind chimes she hung near the back porch. I didn't keep the house because it was expensive. I kept it because it was her. That villa in Aspen, it isn't a vacation home. It's a living memory. It's the echo of a love I wasn't ready to let go of. And I thought Emily knew that. I thought she understood. Emily was always soft-spoken, kind, the kind of girl who'd cry over stray animals and bring home lost kittens. She loved bedtime stories, would ask me to read the same ones again and again, just to hear my voice. When Rachel got sick, Emily was the one who stayed up at night holding her hand, brushing her hair, telling her she was still beautiful. She was everything I could have hoped for. Smart, strong, gentle. And when she graduated first in her class, I clapped louder than anyone in the auditorium. She looked at me from the stage and mouthed, "Thank you." I gave her everything. Not as debt, not as guilt, but as love. When she met Dylan, I tried to be happy. He was polite, but there was something in his eyes. A calculation. Like he saw people as assets. Rachel didn't trust him. Said his smile didn't reach his eyes. But Emily was in love. So we kept our doubts to ourselves. After the wedding, things began to change. Phone calls got shorter. Visits became rarer. Then came the polite cancellations. The unreturned messages. She stopped asking about Aspen. Stopped talking about her mother. Stopped looking at me the way she used to. And then one day a text, "Dad, we're thinking of spending more time at the villa. It doesn't make sense for you to have it all to yourself." I stared at that message for 10 full minutes. Not because I didn't understand it, but because, deep down, I knew the girl who sent it wasn't my little girl anymore. The first time Dylan's parents visited the villa, I thought it was just a weekend. Margaret and Charles Carter, the kind of people who speak like everything they touch belongs to them. She wore perfume that filled every room. He talked like he was interviewing you, even when he was asking for the salt. They smiled a lot, but it was the kind of smile you put on for photographs, not for people. They called it quaint, said the kitchen was a little outdated, asked if I'd considered selling, before the market dips. I told them it wasn't for sale, that it would never be. They exchanged a look, one of those quick glances that say more than words ever could. A week later, I came back from the grocery store and found Margaret rearranging the bookshelves. Rachel's books. Her favorite chair had been pushed into a corner. The wind chimes on the back porch were gone. I asked where they were. Margaret smiled. They didn't really match the vibe we're going for. I looked at Emily. She didn't say a word. Later that night, Dylan poured himself a drink and said, "It's kind of strange you live in here all by yourself. Big house like this, it's meant for a family." I nodded, smiled back, didn't say what I was thinking. Because for the first time, I realized I wasn't the host anymore. I was the guest. It started with a dinner I wasn't invited to, a Sunday night. My usual spot at the table taken. By Margaret, no one said anything. I ate at the kitchen island alone, listening to laughter from 10 feet away. The next morning, I noticed my shaving kit was gone from the bathroom. Folded towels were replaced with monogrammed ones, Carter embroidered in navy. That same day, I got a message from Emily. "Hey, Dad, Dylan and I were talking, and we think it might be good for you to take a little break. Just for a few days. We've got a lot going on hosting planning. It's been a lot." She added a smiley face. A damn smiley face. I didn't respond. Not at first. I walked out to the porch, the one Rachel and I used to sit on watching the mountains turn pink at sunset. I sat there for hours, watching shadows crawl across the floorboards as if even the house was shrinking away from me. When I finally wrote back, I said, "No problem. Let me know when you're ready for me to return." She never did. And I realized this wasn't a pause, it was an exit. Polite, painless, packaged with emojis. But make no mistake, I'd just been evicted from my own home by the person I gave my entire life to. I packed 2 shirts, a book Rachel once loved, and the photo I kept by the fireplace. That's it. No suitcases, no goodbye dinner, Just a quiet exit like I was some tenant whose lease had expired. Emily helped, but she didn't look me in the eye, not once. She folded my shirts neatly, placed them in a small travel bag, then said, "It's just temporary, Dad. We'll figure something out." She kissed my cheek, but it felt practiced, like she'd rehearsed it. Dylan held the front door open. Didn't say a word. Didn't have to. Margaret waved from the living room like she was sending off an Uber driver. Drive safe. Richard Aspen roads can be tricky. She laughed. I walked to my car. Didn't look back, not even once. I drove for hours. No destination. Just trees and silence and the low hum of Betrayal riding shotgun. I stopped at a gas station off Highway 82, a place I'd been to once years ago with Rachel. I sat there, in the car, watching people come and go, families, couples, smiles, noise, and I realized something I'd been pushed out. Of the one place in the world that held my memories, my marriage, my meaning. But I didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't burn it down. I just sat there and let the quiet do the talking. A week later, I came back to grab a few winter coats from the hallway closet. It was snowing. The kind of quiet snowfall Rachel used to love. She'd sit by the window, just watching, never said a word, just smiled. When I opened the door, Margaret was standing on a step stool, holding a frame. Rachel's photo. The one I'd taken on our 10th anniversary, her laughing wind in her hair standing right where the fireplace is now. I froze, didn't even take off my shoes. "Oh, Richard," she said casually. I was thinking of putting up something more neutral. "You know, modern. We've got a beautiful landscape piece that'll look perfect here." I didn't move, didn't blink. She kept talking. Rachel looked lovely in this photo, but you know it's time for the house to feel like everyone's home, not just a shrine. Shrine, that's what she called it. Emily walked in carrying grocery bags. She saw me, saw what Margaret was doing, and she said nothing, just kept walking. That silence was louder than any insult. I didn't shout, didn't snatch the photo, didn't demand anything. I just walked to the mantel, took the frame from Margaret's hands and said, "This stays with me wherever I go." She shrugged, as if I'd taken a vase. Not a memory, not a life. And right then I knew. This wasn't about space or sharing. This was erasure. 3 days later, I got a call. Emily wanted to talk things through. So I came back. Same house, same snow. Different daughter. We sat in the living room, Rachel's living room, but it didn't look like hers anymore. New furniture, muted colors, no warmth, just design. Emily sipped her coffee slowly, then said without blinking, "Dad, I think it's time we had a serious conversation. You've done so much, and we're grateful, but you're not getting any younger." I raised an eyebrow, didn't speak. She continued, "It doesn't make sense for you to maintain a property this size. Dylan and I can take better care of it. Legally, the transfer's simple. You just sign here." She slid a folder across the coffee table. Inside deed transfer papers. I looked at her. Really looked, not the little girl in pigtails, not the college graduate, but a stranger. One who saw this house as an asset, and me as a hurdle. "You're too old, Dad. It's my turn now." My hands didn't shake. My lips didn't quiver. I just stood up, took a deep breath, and said, "Keep it, all of it. I won't fight you." She looked stunned, relieved. But what she didn't know was that I'd just declared war. Silently. I didn't slam the door, didn't make a scene. I walked to my car folder still in my hands, untouched. The wind howled across the Aspen hills. Snow whipped the windshield. But inside, I was calm. Too calm. Because that wasn't the end. It was just the opening act. I drove west. No music, no radio. Just the sound of tires cutting through ice and my mind clicking into place. For the first time in weeks, I felt focused. Every insult, every silence, every photo taken down, every chair moved, they didn't break me. They sharpened me. I stopped at a diner just past Glenwood Springs, ordered black coffee, sat by the window, watched a young couple laugh over pancakes. Then I opened my phone and searched for a name I hadn't needed in years. Caleb Morris, estate lawyer, old friend, sharp as a scalpel, discreet as a shadow. I typed one sentence. I need to lock down the villa, and I need it airtight. He replied 5 minutes later. Already ahead of you, let's talk. I smiled, the kind of smile they never saw coming. They thought I left because I was weak, because I was old, because I was done. But no, I left so they wouldn't see me coming. Caleb Morris was never a man of many words. He didn't need to be. He let contracts do the talking. We met in a quiet office just off Pearl Street, Boulder. Thick carpet, no windows, no distractions. He slid a folder across the table. Old paper. My signature dated 17 years ago. You remember this? Richard, he asked. Prenuptial clause, joint title, but sole revocation rights in case of spousal death. I nodded. Rachel had insisted. Said love was one thing, but foresight was survival. That clause, Caleb continued, means you're the sole legal owner. No co-heir can override it without your consent. Not Emily, not Dylan, not even a court unless you waive your rights. He leaned back, smirked. They thought this place was just sentimental, but it's locked down tighter than a bank vault. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Can they contest? I asked. Caleb shook his head. Only if you disappear or die, and I don't see you doing either any time soon. He slid over another document, a restrictive use notice. Effective immediately. No renovations, no parties, no subletting, no structural changes. Without my signed approval. Send it through certified mail, he said, and make sure you're smiling when you do. I did more than smile. I signed it with the same pen I used on Rachel's will, not out of revenge, but remembrance. Ethan lived 3 doors down from the villa. Mid-30s. Beard, like he built drones for fun because he did. Retired young after selling a cybersecurity startup. Now spent his time experimenting with AI smart home networks and surveillance systems. He once hacked his own garage door just to teach his dog how to open it with a bark. I brought him 2 coffees. Black, no sugar. Said I needed a favor. What kind of favor, he asked. I told him everything. About Rachel, Emily, Dylan, Margaret. He listened, barely blinking. When I was done, he leaned back and said, "You want me to turn your house into a haunted fortress?" I didn't smile, but I didn't say no. "I want them uncomfortable," I replied. Not harmed, just unsettled. As if the house remembers who it really belongs to. Ethan grinned like a man handed the ultimate coding challenge. Motion sensors, timed lighting, whisper playback in hallways, app-triggered window shades, thermal mapping, artificial voice projections from empty rooms. He sipped his coffee, and if they try to reset the system, I shrugged. Then the house gets angrier. We set to work that night. His laptop open. Cables snaking across the floor. Blueprints, device IDs, and code running in neon lines. You know, Ethan said this is probably unethical. So is stealing from your father, I replied. It took us 3 nights, no sleep, no distractions, just code wires and legacy. Ethan called it Operation Echo. I called it Rachel's Revenge. We started with the lights. Installed smart bulbs in every room. Set them to flicker randomly at 2:17 a.m., the exact time Rachel passed. Next were the motion sensors. Calibrated so that even a shift in body heat would trigger soft footsteps echoing upstairs. No footsteps playing, just the sound of them. In the kitchen, we hid a directional speaker in the ceiling beam. It whispered 3 words only when someone was alone. "Why are you here?" over and over. We programmed the thermostat to drop 5 degrees when Dylan walked into Rachel's old reading room. Cold. Always cold. Just for him. The mirror in the upstairs bathroom, set to fog up slightly every time it detected Margaret's face revealing the faint message. I remember. Ethan added a mobile backend, so I could monitor it, adjust things, trigger custom responses remotely. The house was no longer a house. It was an extension of memory, of ownership, of presence. "You sure you want to go this far?" Ethan asked as we closed the attic panel. I nodded. They took everything I loved, now they'll live in it and never feel at home again. The final touch, Rachel's wind chimes. Reinstalled, but this time they only rang when no wind blew. It started small, harmless. The lights flickered while Margaret was on her yoga mat. She blamed the wiring, called an electrician. He found nothing wrong. Then came the footsteps, always upstairs, always when no one else was home. Dylan started sleeping with a bat. One morning, Charles Carter opened the fridge and the coffee maker turned itself on, without being plugged in. That night Emily heard whispering. 3 words, again and again. "Why are you here?" She searched the house. No one. She texted me. "Dad, is this some kind of prank?" I didn't reply. Then came the cold. The reading room turned into a walk-in freezer. Dylan wore gloves inside. Still insisted. "It's just this elevation. Aspen's weird." But Aspen wasn't fogging up only one mirror. Only when Margaret walked in. Only with the words. I remember. She screamed. Blamed Emily. Blamed the cleaning staff. Even accused the neighbors. But there were no neighbors. Only silence. Only me. They reset the router, replaced the bulbs, called tech support. But the house kept breathing. The wind chimes rang in windless air. The fireplace lit itself at 3 a.m. Rachel's favorite song played from a speaker they swore was unplugged. And the best part, I watched it all. From my phone. Every reaction, every sleepless night, every argument. They weren't haunted by ghosts. They were haunted by memory. And it was glorious. The call came at 11:43 p.m. Her name lit up my screen. I stared at it. Let it ring twice, then answered. "Dad." Her voice was shaking. I don't know what's going on. The lights, the whispers. "Margaret says the house is cursed." I didn't say a word. I just listened. Let her fill the silence. "Look, I know we messed up. Dylan didn't mean it. Mom's stuff, I shouldn't have touched it. I thought I was ready to take over, but I wasn't." She paused, waiting for forgiveness, hoping I'd say, "It's okay, let's fix this, come home." But I didn't. Instead, I asked one question. Just one. "Emily, when you looked at me, did you see your father? Or just an old man standing in the way?" Silence. 20 seconds. No breathing, no reply. Then, I don't know. And there it was. Not anger, not regret, just the truth. And the end. I took a breath, spoke clearly. "The house doesn't want you there anymore, neither do I." Click. I ended the call. I didn't cry, didn't smile. I just sat in the quiet, with Rachel's photo beside me. Knowing, sometimes revenge, is simply letting people feel the emptiness they created themselves. 2 weeks later, a courier delivered a manila envelope to the villa. Inside the revocation of access agreement, signed by me, witnessed, stamped. Emily didn't fight it. She couldn't. The law was on my side, so was the house. By then, they'd already left. Margaret claimed it was to protect the kids. Dylan called it an unsafe environment, but Aspen was safer than ever. They weren't fleeing a haunting. They were running from truth. I waited 3 days, then drove back. Same road, same snow, but this time, I wasn't leaving anything behind. The gates opened smoothly. The lights flicked on in perfect order. No glitches, no whispers, no warnings. Rachel's wind chimes rang gently, because I was home, and the house knew it. I walked through every room, took my time, touched the woodwork, ran my hand along the kitchen counter she once leaned on. In the reading room, I lit the fireplace, not with a match, but with a voice command Ethan coded just for me. "Welcome back, Richard." The flames rose instantly, and so did something in me, not pride, not revenge, just peace. I poured a glass of bourbon, sat in Rachel's old chair. Outside, the mountains stood still just as they always had, and I realized sometimes the best revenge isn't punishment. It's taking back what's yours and never apologizing for keeping it. I didn't reclaim the villa for pride. I didn't fight back to prove a point, and I didn't set the house against them out of hatred. I did it because silence was no longer enough. For years, I mistook being needed for being loved. I thought sacrifice earned permanence, that by giving more they'd remember better. But memory is fragile, and entitlement is loud. The truth is, love without boundaries becomes servitude, and family without respect is just inheritance with guilt. They didn't take the house. They tried to erase the soul in it. Rachel's presence, my years of building, the laughter and the grief, and the dust of time. What they forgot was that some things remember, some walls hold, some names won't be overwritten. I wasn't haunted by ghosts. They were haunted by the living memory of who I was before they replaced me. And when the silence fell, when they had no more power to speak over mine, only then did they realize what they truly lost. So no, this wasn't revenge out of cruelty. It was a reminder that the ones you cast aside might still be watching, and when the time comes they won't yell or fight or beg. They'll simply take back what's theirs without permission, without apology, and without you. You've heard my story. You've walked through every room, felt every betrayal, watched every quiet move. Now I'll ask you, what would you have done if your daughter handed your legacy to people who mocked your memory? If your love, your loyalty, your silence was treated as weakness, would you have walked away quietly? Would you have forgiven? Or would you have let the house speak for you? Because sometimes revenge isn't rage. It's not fire. It's not screaming in the rain. Sometimes it's restraint. It's the door you choose not to open again. The message you let echo through the walls they thought were theirs. We talk about forgiveness like it's a duty, but maybe forgiveness without repentance is just permission to be hurt again. So tell me in the comments, would you have taken the villa back? Would one sentence have been enough? And if this story hit somewhere deep, if it made you remember someone who once erased you, subscribe. Follow this journey, because there are more stories like this. More fathers, more mothers, more people who were told they didn't matter until they reminded the world why they always did. Next week, a woman left out of the family will until one forgotten signature changed everything. Subscribe, share this story, and never forget, revenge isn't hate, it's clarity with perfect timing.